Well, hey, friends, and welcome back to the Echoes of Aldersgate. This is a space for rediscovering the heart of the Wesleyan tradition and exploring how its wisdom continues to shape faithful, practical ministry today. In this episode, the focus is simple but important: where to actually find solid Wesleyan resources. If you remember on our previous podcast, we looked at the history of Wesleyanism. We looked at the history of Methodism, both in England and in America. But today we're going to look at, if you want to know more, if you want to learn more, where do you go to actually find those resources? Many pastors, lay leaders, and students appreciate Wesleyan theology, but are really unsure where to go beyond the few well-known sermons or quotes. There is a wealth of material available, some of it freely accessible, that can really deepen preaching, teaching, and practical formation. So what I want to do in this episode is I want to point out 4 places that you can go to. There's probably many more, but these are 4 that you can start with that are online, that are free, that you can go to and begin to comb through all there is, probably more than what you wanted to know about Methodism and Wesleyan theology. So let me begin by sharing my screen. And as I do, we will begin to take a quick look at all of these and unpack and see what is there. Now, the first that I want to show to you is simply the Wesleyan or the Wesley Center Online. This is a ministry of Northwest Nazarene University. It is one of the most accessible and comprehensive free collections of Wesleyan materials available. As you can see, as you go through here, it includes a tab bar on John Wesley. It includes John Wesley's sermons. It includes explanatory notes on the Bible. It includes early Methodist writings. It has classic holiness texts. It has hymns and historical documents. And one of its strengths is that it places primary sources directly into the hands of modern readers. And this is especially valuable for anyone that is involved in sermon preparation. Instead of relying on secondhand summaries, there's an opportunity to really engage with Wesley's own voice. For example, if you're preparing a sermon on grace, it's possible to read Free Grace or Salvation by Faith in full. And these texts still carry theological clarity and pastoral urgency. This site is not particularly modern in design, but its depth makes it indispensable. So let's dig in just a little bit. If you wanted to say, read the Journal of John Wesley, it doesn't have all the journals on there, but you can read the 4th volume of his journal. Or you can read The Life of John Wesley by John Telford. Or if you wanted to go down, you would see, as I mentioned, these are the sermons of John Wesley, the 1872 edition. And you've got the alphabetical order of all of the sermons. And you see that there is a wealth of information that is on here. John Wesley's notes on the Bible. There is a plain account of Christian perfection. And this is something that we're going to talk about when we dig into the theology of John Wesley. I hopefully want to unpack what John Wesley believed in Christian perfection, entire sanctification, full salvation. So those are some of the things in future episodes we will begin to unpack. We're going to look a little bit deeper into what he taught and what he believed. What we're doing here is just basically an overview to show you where you can go to find this information. You even see here it has, on Wesley Center Online, has Charles Wesley. So Charles Wesley, as we learned last podcast, was the brother of John. He wrote 7,000 to 9,000 hymns, I believe. He was the hymn writer, where John was the theologian, but Charles was a theologian in his own right. Don't get me wrong, but He was a prolific hymn writer. And we see that we have the Methodist hymnal, Charles Wesley's journal. Now, the wonderful thing about the Wesleys is you did never have to wonder about what they thought, because mostly what they thought, they wrote down in a journal. And we see here's the extensive indexes of all of Charles Wesley's journal. There's the Wesley hymn collection. And we even go down and if you click on this, Arminianism. The Wesleys were Arminian in their theology. That meant that they believed in free grace. They were not Calvinists. They did not believe that God just loved certain people and gave salvation to that elect few. They believed when God said he loved the whole world, he loved the whole world. And all of us can freely benefit from the salvation that God has given us through his son, Jesus Christ. So we can look at what James Arminius, the complete works of James Arminius is on here. And we can see what Wesley said about James Arminius, but then we can also go to the source and read what James Arminius had to say himself. There is some what they call non-canonical literature, which is what other people have written about Methodism. The interesting thing also you find here is they have a Holiness Classics library where it gives you places that you can go to find that. But another thing I was wanting to show you on here is this. Okay, we talked a little bit last time about Francis Asbury, if you remember. Now on this site, we have Francis Asbury's journal. So we can see it's in volume 1 and in volume 2. You can go there, you can click on it, you can read his journal in its entirety from the moment he left England until the time of his death. Because he left England at the age of 21, never to go back. He is the father of American Methodism. We owe everything to the work and the genius and the preaching and the teaching of Francis Asbury, those of us that live within the continental United States. So you have that information on there. And you can see that there are a whole host of teachers and preachers who were early Methodists or who had influence over the early Methodists. So you can spend hours on here combing through Wesley Center online. The next thing I want to show to you is Schmul Publishing. Now, Schmul Publishing may be less widely known, but it offers a carefully curated collection of books rooted in the holiness movement and broader Wesleyan tradition. This publisher focuses on reprints of classic holiness texts, devotional and theological writings, materials that are often difficult to find elsewhere. And all of these resources can be especially helpful for those who want to trace how Wesley's theology developed through later movements, including 19th and early 20th century holiness traditions, for small group leaders, or those shaping discipleship pathways. Schmul's materials can provide structured, historically grounded content that goes beyond surface level study. Now, some of these I have, so let me see here. This kind of truncated it a little bit, but if you click on the biographical historical anecdotes, you will see that there's a host of books. I have this book, A Flame of Fire, A Life of William Bramwell, is an early Methodist circuit writer. If you get down here, let's click next. Let's see. There's a set of books that I was wanting to show you. Let's see. It's called Early Methodist Circuit Writers, and it gives a whole history of let me see if I can type in and find that for you and show that to you. Early. Okay, well, it's not showing it here, but you can go through, early Methodism. Let me do early Methodism and see if I can find it again. Oh, there it is. There it is. I don't know how I missed that. but Heroes of Early Methodism, Volume 1. There's actually 3 volumes of this. It's very short books, and it has biographical sketches of early Methodist circuit riders that rode the frontier here in America and also in England, and told about their preaching and about their life and their contributions to Methodism. So you can just comb through here. And now these resources are not free. You're going to have to pay for them. But as you can see, they are very, very economical. And if you pick up these, I know that you will be blessed as you learn all about Methodism and early Methodism. The next site I want to show you is wesleyscholar.com. Now, Wesley Scholar is a strong academic resource, particularly useful for pastors who want to engage more deeply with Wesleyan theology in a scholarly way. The platform includes articles from Wesleyan theologians. It includes conference papers, book reviews, theological reflections on contemporary issues. It bridges the gap between academy and church. And many of the articles remain accessible even for those without formal theological training. For sermon development, if you are a pastor, Wesley Scholar can help provide theological depth. It can offer historical content. It can engage current conversations within the Wesleyan world. And it is especially valuable when wrestling with complex topics like sanctification, ecclesiology, or the role of tradition in modern Methodism. And the editor of this, I want to give a shout out to Dr. Mark K. Olson. He is the one who runs this site, and he is the one that keeps all of this up to date. And he also has a newsletter that he will send out, and it will link to this site, and you can go there. And you will also see here, it gives a link to Wesley Center Online that we were just on, Duke Divinity School, and a couple of organizations and societies that you can look further. Most interesting thing is Wesleyan Holiness Pentecostal Studies Center. We're going to dig into this a little bit deeper, but the Wesleyan movement has an influence over, and also the Pentecostal movement kind of came from the Wesleyan movement. So we'll dig into that a little bit deeper. So you can comb through this site, and you can see that there are lots of articles that are here. There's an article index. It links to podcasts, the Arminian roots of John and Charles Wesley. So you can spend hours on here combing through and looking at all of this here. You see John Wesley, Charles Wesley, early Methodist resources, scholars invited to contribute. So lots of information there. The next site I want to take you to, if I can get my linking to do right, get this out of the way, would be Seedbed. Now, Seedbed is one of the most dynamic and widely used Wesleyan resource platforms today. It offers books and Bible studies. There is the Wake Up Call Daily Devotional, which is a YouTube, a written, a podcast by J.D. Walt, and you can subscribe to that on this website. You see Wake Up Call. If you click on that, you can subscribe to that podcast. It comes every single day to an inbox or a YouTube notification. Right now, JD is leading all of the persons who are engaged in this wake-up call through Paul's letter to the Ephesians. Also has 7-minute seminary videos where it unpacks Wesleyan teaching. It has podcasts and teaching resources, and Seedbed excels at making Wesleyan theology practical and accessible for everyday discipleship. Its tone is pastoral and invitational, making it particularly useful for small groups, congregational study, personal spiritual growth, and the 7-minute seminary series in particular is an excellent tool for introducing key theological concepts in a concise and engaging way. Seedbed also maintains a strong emphasis on awakening and renewal, echoing the spirit of early Methodism. And if you go to their bookstore, you can, let's see if that is the place where it takes us to shop. Yes, and you can see that there are all types of information here that you can get. Let me see. Let me move my picture over here. Let me see what we can find in the area of John West. Well, if I can spell Sey. Okay. John Wesley. Okay, you see that there are lots of absolute basics of the Wesleyan way. I've used that for a confirmation class. There are lots of these little booklets that you can get. They're called Seedlings, Radical Wesley. They used to publish, it was by Andrew Thompson. It was a whole series of books on John Wesley, and that may still be on here, but for, John Wesley Collection. Here you go, right here. Ask for it, and there it is. And so you can click on this, and of course you see it is a pretty considerable price, but you get all of these writings. You see this right here. This is all that you get in this $209 collection. So there's lots of Wesleyan resources that are there. The final thing I want to take you to is I just discovered this. I don't want to spend a lot of time because I haven't spent a lot of time digging into it, but it looks to be a very valuable resource called the Earnest Wesleyan. So I leave this with you and let you dig through it. It's earnestwesleyan.com, and hopefully you can look through this, because I know that I'm going to spend some time looking through it and seeing what is there, and I know it will be beneficial. It looks like you can get the app, the Substack, or get the app, and I may very well be doing that. So this is a new site with resources and articles, and it looks to be a very, very good site. So but anyway, I want to sum this all up and bring this all together, because I don't want to take up too much of your time. So let me just stop share and bring this back. So each of these resources that I brought to your attention today serves a slightly different purpose. Of course, Wesley Center Online, as I said, provides primary sources in historical depth. Schmul Publishing connects readers with holiness tradition writings. Wesley Scholar offers academic and theological engagement. Seedbed focuses on practical discipleship and accessible teaching. And then we've got the new one that I showed you, Earnest Wesleyan. And all of these used together can create a well-rounded ecosystem for Wesleyan ministry and thought. For pastors, this means stronger sermons grounded in our Wesleyan tradition. For lay leaders, it means more confident and informed teaching. For congregations, it means deeper formation in the grace-centered vision that shaped the Methodist movement. So the Wesleyan tradition has never been only about ideas. It has always been about lived faith. Every resource that we look at on these sites and everything that we read about John and Charles Wesley and all of those that came after them, it's about lived faith. It is how to be an authentic Christian. It is how to be a faithful follower of Jesus Christ. Because the Wesleys would say, don't follow me, follow Jesus. But I've discovered that the Wesleys have a lot to say, because we can learn about following Jesus from them as we look in their lives and see how they did it. And these resources that I shared with you today are not just for study, they're for transformation. John Wesley's ministry was rooted in the conviction that faith should shape both heart and life. Personal holiness and social holiness held together. And these tools can help carry that vision forward. So thank you for joining this episode of Echoes of Aldersgate. In the next episodes that follow, we'll kind of shift toward how to actually use all of these things that I've brought to your attention. How to use these to benefit our own faith and help us become better followers of Jesus Christ. So we're going to unpack and look at the lives of some of these individuals, the theology of some of these individuals, how they lived as Christians and how they called others to be Christians. So I hope this has been beneficial to you today. I hope that you will look at all of these. I will drop the links of these in the chat on the YouTube page so that you can click on them and go to them yourself. But I hope that this has been beneficial. I hope that you will be blessed. Grace and peace to you until we meet each other again. Again, this is Echoes of Aldersgate. My name is Bryan Diffee, and I look forward to seeing you at our next episode. Take care, and God bless.